We are kind of proud and we are kind of excited about the many new and innovative and cost-competitive products that we're making all over the world. And I hope you were able to see a few displayed already there, and you will for sure hear more about this when Renato Brienti and Mark Gerards will present in a little bit. We already talked about the two businesses that we have, and you may notice a little difference here. We used to talk a lot about divisions. I'm not a big fan of the word division because it comes from dividing, and I don't like to divide. I like to put people together, and so now we talk about businesses, and I think actually we can do even more there. I think there is more to be done from a synergetic point of view between wheels and components, mostly in the Americas, because that's where we are with the two businesses, but in fact globally. When you think about organization, when you think about supply chain, when you think about sustainability, when you think about AI or digital, you know, these are all things, or product development, innovation, these are all things that I think we can do even more when we work even more together between those two businesses. And so there will be a little bit more emphasis, even more emphasis on this going forward than what we have done in the past already. Now, when we look on our operations around the world, these are not all, because some of the dots that you see here are one country, but we have more operations in that one country, right? But here you see back the 14 countries where we are. I'm sure there's many companies around the world that are more global, but I'm also sure that at least from a wheels point of view, we are the most global company in that industry. This is a pretty good map. Only Russia's not there, and today we're not disappointed about that. There's a few dots here that are highlighted in blue for components and in orange for wheels. That, by the way, has nothing to do with Holland. Orange, this was already the case before I started in the company, I think. Of course, in Mexico, you see the blue dot, and we're talking here about more than average growth that we are planning in these locations. Of course, in Mexico, this has to do with the expansion and the transformation of the plant in Castaños that, again, Renato will talk about more. Turkey, of course, as well, has to do with the new CVA plant that Mark will talk about more, give you an update. But there is more that we're going to do, and you will hear that story a little bit when you go forward. I think the last few years, we have been having a couple of key priorities. Two of those were, one is delever the company, and I think we're on track. We are making that happen. And second is, you know, make these two big investments happen. And you know, when you think about Castaños and you think about the plant in Turkey, these are really, really big investments for a company of our size. So you may ask, again, after hearing about this a lot, why did you do that again? I ask myself sometimes, right? And the answer is always the same. It was the right choice, it is the right choice. And we're very happy that we're at the end of it because it's costing a lot of money, but it was the right thing to do. In North America, because right now the market is down. It's a cycle. It's 5 years up and then it goes 1 or 2 years down. Right now, the good news is we believe we're at the bottom of that cycle, so it will go up. And when it does go up, we would not have had enough capacity. And if you don't have enough capacity, I think the customers will not stop making trucks. They will find another supplier, right? That's not what we want. So we needed to be ready in time for when the cycle goes back up again. Now you will ask me, when does it go back up again? I asked that same question as well, and it may still happen this year, may happen next year, but it will happen, right? And so we need to be ready, and we will be ready with this investment for when that happens, okay? And then in Turkey, you know, we make steel wheels for pass cars, we make aluminum wheels for pass cars, we make a lot of steel wheels for trucks, but the market in Europe is shifting a little bit, not too much, but it's moving a little bit from steel wheels for trucks to aluminum wheels for trucks. It used to be 10%, then it's 12%, then it's 15%. I think, you know, the market is growing a little bit faster for aluminum wheels than the overall market is growing. Then we have one big competitor there. It's a publicly listed company, and they always present these very nice EBITDAs that are a lot higher than my EBITDA, so we become jealous and we say, you know, the market is going away a little bit from us, and so we need to also be in that other market. And by the way, it seems that that is a very profitable market, so we want to be there as well. That's why we did it, okay? And so those two investments, these two dots, but there's more we can do, and we call it internally, do more with less. And that means do more projects with less CapEx. Not less CapEx overall, but spend it on many more small projects. Mark will talk a little bit more about that. Renato will talk about that, because I think there's more we can do in Brazil. We will do more in Brazil. We will invest a little bit more in our side rail capacity in Cruzeiro, because the market is a good market for us in Brazil. It will grow, and we want to be ready, right? And so we will do that. This is nowhere near a similar investment than Mexico or Turkey. It's small, but it's meaningful. Same on wheels. I mean, the market is good in passenger car in Brazil. We love it. We like it. It's very favorable to us. And on top of that, we are doing good in that market. And so I think there's the room, and there is, in fact, the need to do something more. And so, you know, for instance, redeploying some of our assets from around the world to Brazil to serve the market here is something we will do in Brazil. This doesn't take a lot of capex, but in the last few years, when everything was focused on these two big projects, you know, our list of low-hanging fruits became longer, and so we look forward to execute on some of that low-hanging fruit. Same in India. We're not going to build a new plant, but we're going to do something more in our existing infrastructure, okay? China, we already invested, and we will start utilizing that capacity more in the next coming years. That's our plan. So these are the regions where we will grow a little bit more than, or hopefully meaningfully more than average. In a nutshell, before I turn the word to Renato Salum, you know, the world is dynamic. You can also say challenging. I prefer the word dynamic, right? There's a lot going on in the world, geopolitics and etc., with a lot of impact on industry, also on automotive industry. But you know, our goal will be to be resilient, and more than resilient. I will come back to that at the end of the day, at the end of the morning. But you know, for sure, our strategic global presence that we have. You know, we have a global presence, but we have a local focus. We are not big exporters. We don't build a plant in China or a plant in India to then export those products all over the world. We serve the local markets, and right now, you know, that's I think a situation that is giving us a little bit of an advantage instead of a little bit of a headache. We do have a very complete portfolio. We have an innovative portfolio, and so when you see some of those revenues that go more up in 2025 than what the market is going up, I think this has a lot to do with this, and therefore we're proud to show the products, and we will be proud to show you in the presentations from Renato and Mark what we're doing from a product portfolio point of view. But I can guarantee you, you know, no matter how dynamic the market is, you know, we will be focused on shareholder value. I'm not only saying that in this meeting here, where there's a lot of analysts and a lot of shareholders, but I'm saying that internally. I'm saying that everywhere, shareholder value. And so to do that, we need to operate efficiently, because whatever we do nice with new products and whatever we do nice from a footprint point of view, if we don't run our plants efficiently and more efficient every year, then you know it will not work. So that's our base. And we have been delivering strong productivity over the last years. We need to do it going forward. Our customers want it, and we need it from a financials point of view. That's the base. But then also we want to outpace the market. Now, if the market doesn't grow and you grow 0.1%, that's not so very meaningful. We want to outpace the market. Now, what that exactly means, let's see how that develops, but I think we're on a good track in 2025. If we do that, if we have the operational efficiency, and if we grow a little bit faster than the market shows, you know, I think there is this potential for what I call smart growth, the growth in our existing facilities. Not $80 million investment, but 3 million, 5 million, 8 million, and do 10 of those and have quicker paybacks in our existing infrastructures. Now, that's a little bit, in a nutshell, the plan that we will talk about with you more in detail in the presentations from Renato Salum, Briganti, and Mark Gerards. By the way, Mark is also Dutch. I apologize for that. Nobody's perfect. Right? Renato, you want to take it from here?
Thank you, Peter.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for attending this event. Today we have the main investors in the company and banks and investors. I remember that 1 year ago I didn't know even 50% of who's here. But today I can say that I know at least 90% of the ones who are here in this room. So each and every one of you, I believe I've already spoken to each of you during this year and several times. So thank you very much. And I promise that next time we meet, I will have achieved the goal of getting to know everyone in this room. Well, this is me. I am the company's CFO, and I am also the investors relation officer for the company. I'm going to talk about the current scenario concerning vehicle production and light vehicles as well. And we are also going to talk about our financial performance. We're going to recall some of the 2Q25 earning results that have already been published. We had just recently had our earnings results call, and I'm also going to talk about the sustaining financial discipline of this company. Well, in terms of global vehicle production, when we look to the chart on the left side, we see the projection for light vehicles. This is the global production, the numbers that have been updated in 2025 in August, and we can say that in 2025, with the numbers excluding China, we see growth of 1%, and obviously this includes the production in China. And considering our participation in China is not that relevant, we exclude this number, and then on the lower portion of the screen you see the numbers excluding China. So for light vehicles, we see a drop of 1% for 2025, which is close to flat when we look at our earning results. And obviously, we don't tell you how many wheels have been produced, but I can say that the quantity for the second quarter was a little bit larger than the second quarter, and this does not reflect this minus 1% to date. I could say this is a little bit of a flat number. And on the right side, you have the production of commercial vehicles, data from global data. Information here is not that updated anymore, not as much as the first chart, but still within the second quarter of 2025. But just to keep consistency of what we've been presenting to you every year, we decided to include this chart. We see a drop when we exclude the numbers from China, which is minus 5%. But within these minus 5%, we include all the other regions in the world. We can say that for North America, we have a more prominent drop in terms of sales, but also this is part of our earning results call for the second quarter, and you could see this drop that we had for North America. Next slide. Let's just recall some of the highlights for the 2Q25. We bring a net revenue of 4.1 billion reais, a little bit above the gross profit, the net revenue for the first quarter, which was 8 billion for the first half 2025. As for the gross profit, we've reached 535 million reais with gross margin of 13%. And we believe this is important, especially when we compare the previous quarters. Numbers were smaller, and we have managed to reach these 13% again. Our EBITDA for the second quarter, we have brought the numbers to the historical numbers, 11%. The net income for the second quarter had a smaller impact, especially due to fiscal reasons. We had numbers updated in Turkey and in Mexico, and the currency is different from the local currency when we consider. Of course, there's tax-related situations. Assets are all in dollars and in euros. And when there's valuation or devaluation of the local currency, we end up suffering some impact on your results, especially concerning tax, because the net income is going to be decreased. So for our first quarter, we had this impact, which was a little bit more to a neutral number, especially. But for the first semester, we see 98 million reais with a margin of 1.2%. And as for the leverage, close to 2.38-fold. And as we have been talking to you about, the idea is to be close to 2. This is the idea in the short term and also in the medium term, to be 1.5-fold as a priority, and this continues to be of high priority for the company.
And when we talk about our net revenue, we have seen in the previous slide that we have reached 8 billion reais in the first semester of 25 compared to 4 billion in the first semester of 24. And of course, here we have the effect of the exchange rate. And when we talk about a flat volume compared to last year, we see revenues that are higher than the first semester. If for any moment we use the same conversion or exchange rates for the first semester of 24 for the first semester of 25, we would observe the same volume of revenues for the semester. And when we look at the year-over-year evolution of the revenues, it's important to mention the 16, almost 17 million we had in 2022. We had an event that was expected and we didn't have in 23 and 24, and so far in 25, we had an increase in the price of aluminum and steel. Aluminum, I'd say that compared to 23, 24, and 25 that are more stable, they are the cost is 20% lower than aluminum, while for CRU, depending if we're in Germany or in the United States, it can get to 20 to 30%. And since we have a pass-through system in our raw materials cost, when we talk about our company revenue, this 17 million in 2022 had to do with the cost of raw materials at that time. But 8 billion, if we do a forecast multiplying basically by 2, we would be talking about 16 billion. That is still higher than 2024. Now a little bit about our revenues by product. What's worth mentioning and where we really see a difference would be between the second quarter of 25 and the second quarter of 24. We see a drop of 4 percentage points. And from these 4 percentage points, I'd say that 3.8 percentage points are related to products in structural components for commercial vehicles in North America, and that is why we see that change. As for the first half of the year, we're very much in line. We have the exchange rates that end up favoring regions where we have euro or dollars as their main currency in there. That is why we see more difference in some products that are more concentrated in regions where we have a stronger currency. So at the end of the day, this is the evaluation we have. As for the revenue by customer, the top one for the company is Daimler, and we see for Daimler, we have gone from 13.9 by client in 2022 2024, we go to 11.7%. We have a drop of 2% that are related to the drop we had in North America. When we go to other clients such as Ford, we see the opposite. We see the second quarter of 2024, we see about 8.6% of the company's consolidated net revenue. And for the second quarter of 2025, we see 10% with an increase that is mostly related to the increase of volume of this client in Europe. And the rest, we have a less variation, but we can clearly see an improvement in Europe. And I would say that it's an increasing volume, and Mark is going to talk a little bit more about that, but that is reflected in the company's revenue. In what you have seen in the semester is the drop that we had in North America ends up reflecting in one of these important clients we have, that is Daimler. This next slide, we have the company's EBITDA and EBITDA margin. We see for the second semester of 2024, we have 389 million reais in terms of EBITDA for the second quarter, and then 450 for the second quarter of 25. And when we compare the semester, we see a margin in the second quarter of last year. We have gone now back to our historic margin in the second quarter of 25. When we look at the semester, we have a combination of a 9% EBITDA margin in the first semester and a 10% margin for the first half of 2025. And when we look at the margin, it's important to mention that we have a combination at this time of the first quarter of 24, we have 8%, and then in 2025 we had a result of 9.5% for the semester when we combine the two first quarters. When we look at the financial situation of the company, the financial position of the company, when you look at the left here, we see the composition of the company's debt per currency. We have 44% of our gross debt are in reais, 20% in dollar, 34% in euro, and this is the gross debt. And the company has a policy that we follow the evolution, the progression of our gross debt and the net debt, and we try to have the net debt aligned with our revenue. So anytime we have changes, we will make decisions to make sure we have a balance in that sense. And when we look at the right here, we see the maturity tower, and the company has closed in June almost 1.7 billion in available cash. We have credit lines that have not yet been used that add up to 760 million reais, and the total is 2.4 million. And we see what we have for term for the next few years. And although we have 2025 for 2025, 172 for 2026, and 432 for 27, based on what we have delivered in terms of cash flow for last year, we understand that the cash generation for the company would be enough to face the payments that we have ahead of us, so the company would not need any liability for that. So we are in a very comfortable position and puts us ahead of other competitors that are going through financial difficulties. So you see that the company's financial position is very solid. And when you talk about 2028, we have the bonding maturity and an issue that we had in something that we issued in 2021, and we did a swap to euro. This debt is now in euro, and it costs 3.49% a year. So this is a debt that the company considers cheap compared to what we have today in the market. And of course, obviously, the company, considering the possibility of a drop in interest rates in the United States, the company believes that the 3.49 we have been paying during still 2026 we should maintain, and we should think about changing that for by the end of 26 and the beginning of 27, and until then we can combine two things, which is continue paying 3.49% and maybe a possibility of reducing up to 1% the total of interest paid in the United States, and so that we can have a good moment for a new issuing of bonds for that period. And when you look to the lower part on the right, you see the cost of our debts. In the second quarter of 24, we had our debts in reais at a CDI plus 1.9% rate. We did some liability management during this time, and today we have a more reduced spread with a CDI plus 1.2%, which is the average for the debt in Brazilian reais. And when we talk about euros, we're talking about those bonds where we did a swap, and we now have a 3.49%. So we swapped some debts we had in euros, and at that time we had that 3.49%, but we had other debts for which the cost of the company were 4.2%, and today we have only that one in 3.49. And for dollars, we have so far, if I'm not mistaken, the overnight is 4.2%, and the difference would be the spread. But as a whole, when you look the cost, we have about 9% consolidated cost, which I consider, which I say when we compare that to other companies, it's a cost that I would consider quite competitive for the company. And on the left, on the bottom left, you see the short term. Today, the company has 6.3% of its debts in the short term, while last year we had 17.5% for the short term. So this is a very good scenario for the company. This is something we have been working on for the last 2 years to be able to get to this financial position for the company. So here we have a celebration of FINEP in the beginning of this year, and I was very careful to change suits so I wouldn't be wearing the same one, but the delivery here was a work that was very well done by our treasury. When we compare this work to other companies in Brazil, you see that we have really managed to achieve investments that we're going to do for the next 4 years, or what were 4 years at that time. We have 3 years and a few months now, but we were able to prove to FINEP that we are really going to have sustainable growth, bringing new equipment that are going to increase the company's competitiveness compared to other companies abroad. And this is a very important point. We were able to raise more than 300 million reais with a system where you have reimbursable funding. We had reimbursements in the past of 60 million reais, and now we have about 300 million reais to be reimbursed in the next 3 years and 4 months at a 2.3% year rate. That is very good for the company and will help in the company's financial position. And considering all that, this was my last slide, and I'm going to give the floor to my colleague Renato. Thank you. Good morning again. Thank you for being with us. My name is Renato Brigante. I'm responsible for structural components business. I've been with Maxion for 26 years. Let me move to this side. So the idea for today, I have only 9 slides, and my idea today is to talk a little bit about a strategy for the next years in our business. And I'll start with a very simplified slide about our product portfolio. And although it is simplified, I think it manages to capture all segments and products we provide: light vehicles, commercial vehicles, and a whole range of products. But it's hard to bring you 100% of our reality. We're talking about more than 15,000 products that we produce in our business. And that is why we have one of the first strategies, at least for the last 3 years, which is focusing on our core business. We know funding is finite, money is finite, people are finite, so we have to make intelligent, good decisions. And when we remember last year, many of you were with us, we thought about bringing our business to historical margins. And I can tell you today that we are in the right path. We continue working strongly in that strategy. And for us to be able to achieve and sustain these new margins, I'll start by telling you how we're going to do that. And first, Peter talked about this previously, we need to start by transforming our production lines, focusing on the core of our business, which are the side rails. And the first one is related to a factory in Brazil. We are going to make small investments in the current lines, bringing new technologies to the existing equipment, and adding and bringing new equipment that will allow us to work more efficiently and be able to produce some products that today are not possible, that we can produce, not us and our competitors. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that and the consequences. So some investment in Brazil, and one of the big and a large investment in Latin America, in North America. And why that difference? Smaller investment in Brazil, larger one in North America. In North America, the side rails and truck market is about 4 times larger than the truck market in South America, and that requires large investments. And this is an investment we started about 3 years ago. It's quite complex. We're talking about a plant that is completely new and that will bring more technologies, more efficiency, and the capacity to produce new products, but will ensure capacity for the future. And our idea is that our clients have a greater perception of our business and of our products. And you can ask, capacity will bring that perception? Yes, it will. And one characteristic that is important about this product is that without it, you don't have a truck. It's the first product you assemble in a truck. A truck can be produced without a mirror, without a panel, but it cannot be started. The production cannot be started without a side rail. So any clients, new or old or potential, they aim to ensure available capacity for long-term contracts. And to give you a little peek view on that, we'll show you a video about the plant that we started 3 years ago, and in a smart way we structure this investment a little bit differently.
It's a new plant, but it's a modular plant divided into 4 stages. What you see now is the first stage, ready. It's been ready for 2 months now, and there are still 3 additional lines being built. And they will allow us to work in parts and with the capex. Of course, the first part was much more difficult, but the next ones are going to be of shorter deadlines. And apart from this, this plant will allow us to be efficient when we are in low seasons, and we are going to be more efficient in these periods. We will be able to phase these lines, keep our costs, especially the variable costs, low. And this is important for our clients as well. And there's more. Of course, it's important because of the long-term agreements. The clients are looking into finding future capability. This will allow us to work with 3 of the largest clients that we have with good contracts, and of course, apart from the existing ones, the new clients as well. With new capacity, new technology, we will be able to attract more clients. I have 2 examples for you. One, Harbinger. They manufacture hybrid trucks and electric trucks. They came after us, and we are the only ones who have the technology to design the product and the design that they need. These are products that were created for electric vehicles, which are different from what you see in other companies, which are adaptations only. So we have something new. Class 4 and Class 6 vehicles are being served with these products. These are lighter vehicles, and we are betting on this segment. We have a smaller participation, a smaller share, and our participation is much larger than the ones that we have in large vehicles. The second client that we are working strongly with, I don't have the name here up on the screen, but that would be the main vehicle assembler in the world. We are just about closing deals with them now. And what is specific for flame rails for Class 8 trucks is that we are leaders for Class 8 trucks in North America. And in case in the future the electric vehicles are representative of our larger share in the market, we are going to be ready because we are not going to lose this market share. And of course, we are going to have more market share than today because part of it is still with the competition. Okay, so what comes with it? And I think I've mentioned this last year too. They need electric vehicles need components that do not exist to date, and we are creating a few things. We've assessed everything that can be done in this segment for now, and we are working with material and equipment that are not what we have in our core business today. We started researching 3 years ago, asking the following question: how can we minimize and actually maximize to facilitate with a product that can meet the requirements and demand of our clients? So with a partnership with Novelis, and I believe you all know Novelis, there is a product that we are going to launch in the second semester for the year. It's a battery box, 100% stamped in aluminum, and this is going to be developed by Novelis, and 33% lighter, an aluminum battery compartment, which is different from everything that is done in the market today. We can say that if we work challenging our engineers and our personnel, we are able to work differently and more intelligently using our own resources. And of course, it's important to have capacity investment because this is going to attract clients. But Peter has mentioned something else. We are 100% focused on efficiency growth and continuous improvement, especially after last year with the new tools with artificial intelligence. We've focused on a few things. I have 3 examples of what is represented through these technologies. We are looking into bringing more quality and making our products stand out from competition. This is our strategy, trying to reduce our cash and capital in use. And of course, the profitability portal is something important. This is a very interesting work we carry out because everything that you see, all the decision-making processes during 18 months is based on this profitability portal, because it indicates where and what we need to work with, whether this is pricing or negotiation of items, components, process improvements. This guides us and sheds light on what we need to change. Each product is worked on according to what is shown in this portal, and it reflects the investment we've been doing in the last 12 months. Of course, we cannot do this without people, and I believe Peter is going to resume this subject. People are in the center of everything we do. Artificial intelligence is said to steal job positions everywhere in the world. Maybe, yes, it will. But it's going to get the jobs of those who do not use these technologies in their daily routine or for the decision making of their processes. If they don't use it, they're going to have a hard time. This is why with Maxion we have a system being implemented that not only allows people to work with the technologies, but also trains them on the technologies, and then they are challenged to really use that during their daily routine. And we've been really successful with this. We have a program called Agile, and last year we had a very good and prominent adherence to this program. And many of the great ideas we received came from this program using artificial intelligence. And lastly, the same way people are challenged to be part of programs increasing capability. We are also challenged by this subject of sustainability, which is the reduction of emissions. Working with reductions of emissions within processes on scope 1 and 2 is easy. If we have infinite money and infinite resources, you can transform a company and bring the company to net zero. But the challenge is to do this in a way that I not only have the reduction, but I can also transform this into a process that can reduce emissions, benefit the company, and benefit clients. So these two examples are really important. First one, solar panels in Mexico. This was the first plant in the auto parts sector with solar panels. This was created with 0% capex, with a partnership, and it's reducing 5 to 6% in our consumption, or at least the price in consumption of electricity. And we've managed to take Contagem plant close to zero waste for certification. We have changed the way we reduce CO2 on scope 1 and 2 with very low capex and a very interesting return of investment. These were the examples I wanted to share with you. Of course, I would have a lot more to say, but I believe that the message was given. Some years ago, we decided to focus on the core business. We needed to make decisions, important decisions with the money that we have and maximize our results. We are going to transform our operations and make them be more efficient to make our product and our ability stand out. We are going to deliver value. And this is how we are going to grow, not only with the current customers, but also with the new ones. We are already managing to increase our participation in the market, not only in North America, but also in South America. And we are getting ready for the future in regard to capacity. And it's perceived very strongly by our customers. And this is how we are going to transform the business. And with this, I would like to thank you all and give the floor to Mark.
Good morning, everybody. So I think Peter already revealed a bit of a secret when he was talking about the nationality. So let me also quickly introduce me to yourself, and maybe later on we have the opportunity to also interact face to face. So Mark Gerards, I've been with the company now for more than 10 years. In wheels business, I've had close to 20 years of experience. And since April this year, in a position to represent also Maxion wheels. Now, when you look at this picture, where was I looking at? Most probably was at the office where Peter was looking to Brazil, where I was looking at the office in Germany. So I'm being based in Germany, and from that role, traveling around the globe as well, visiting our plants across the globe. The agenda for today is that I would like to update you on our growth engines. How are we achieving our growth in the market? But when you achieve the growth, the key of the question is also how you execute that growth in the market. So with a strong focus also into the operations in order to achieve our ambitious targets. And last but not least, when you have the right product, when you have the right strategy in place, you need to have the human capital also to make it happen. So that's a bit the storyline for today. So let us start first. What is a bit the background? And you see here one vehicle, being the Ford T model. And you see also the cars of today. Maxion has been around for more than 100 years. And for more than 100 years, we've been supplying the OEMs across the globe, whether it is in passenger car or in commercial vehicles. And that has resulted in the fact that we not only have a global footprint, that is very important, but that we really have become a very trustworthy engineering partner for those OEMs. And that's very important for a component like a wheel. Today, the wheel is considered very much a design element for the vehicle. But we should never forget that the wheel is also a safety part. So making sure that you can engineer these components in a perfect way is very key to our value proposition. So when we follow the journey and our growth strategies, and that's what I will talk you through the next couple of slides, whatever we do, and we can explain that also from the wheels being lined up at the backside of this meeting room, we always keep affordability in mind, and we also want to add value to that market. So that's part on how we develop, whether it is in the existing business, whether we use the existing technologies to develop new segments, or whether we use it for new applications. That's kind of the core of the matter, so that we use the assets in the right and proper way. I think Peter discussed in his opening speech the local for local approach. With the experience that we have in the market, we have a local footprint. And I think in today's dynamic environment, or you can call it a complex business environment, it's very good to have that local for local opportunity and to serve our customers globally in that perspective. And last but not least, it's all about the operational excellence in the end, because you need to achieve your productivity targets. You need to make sure that you work also with the future. When you talk about digitalization, when you talk about artificial intelligence, you need to be on top of those trends and make sure that you can process them into your industrialization. And when you then talk about our transition, and I think 5 years ago when the pandemic hit in, we had to cope with a lot of fluctuations in the volumes. We had inflationary pressures. We've had lack of components. And I think the big transition we made is we've been able to adapt our organization to react very swiftly to these kind of situations. And that's very important, because I think this is going to be the new norm going forward. So in nice words, people call that these days resilience, but I think it's very important to be able to adapt your operations and to adapt your structures as quick as you can. When we talk about affordable products, we want to show you a couple of examples how we are approaching the market. It's very important that we start from the affordability and value-add perspective. And as an example, especially in the steel business, you can already see from this example that when we compare first half year 25 compared to first half year 23, we've been able to grow our conventional steel wheels business with 8.5%. However, with the focus that we've had, because a couple of years again we said, you know, we have to look again to the steel wheels, because the steel wheels was being considered round wheel with a couple of ventilation holes. But if you can add styling to that wheel, you're going to combine the best of both worlds. We have a lineup at the back end of the meeting room to show you, but in the meantime, we've been able to grow this segment much more than we've been able to grow the business on the steel side with 27.5%. And that means we're adding value to the organization. And this look again is not only from our side. I think when you look at the real market need and you ask the questions today to OEMs, the big question today is how can you produce an affordable vehicle? So they need to look again to those components and see if some items can be changed for more affordable solutions. And that has been driving the business, and we're supporting that also with a campaign that we're running. That looks totally different seen in the past. And I think we have some examples there. We're very proud that we can start to market this much more, and it's also very scalable in our existing steel facilities. Now, when you look on what we're doing today, you also know what you're going to do in the future. So we want to bring to you 2 examples of where we are developing. One wheel, we are also One of the wheels. Just a second. All right, this seems to be better. I think one technology that we're showing is basically where we again bring two parts of the world together. We have the experience on the aluminum side, which delivers the design element. And then you can bring steel into the equation, which gives you not only a new innovation, but it also will add functionality at the very end. We call that today Maxion Fusion, because you bring the best of two worlds together. At this moment in time, we're running some vehicle tests with two OEMs in different parts of the world. And at the moment that those vehicle tests show positive results, we will be able to scale that process into our various locations. So we're very excited to follow up on this project and to move forward. And now you think, what does it mean, NVH? Well, those who drive electrical cars today, it really changes the way you're driving. Most of the people enjoy the silence in the cars, but when you develop the cars, today there is a lot of attention how you can reduce the noise in the car. So NVH stands for noise, vibration, and harshness. And there's many ways how you can innovate on that topic into these noise that enter through the cavity into the vehicle. But through our network, where we are cooperating with tire manufacturers and with OEM, we have been able to develop a wheel that has the ability to exactly break those frequencies in the wheels that help and increase the comfort in the car. So, still by the Q4 of this year, one of the North American OEMs will launch a vehicle with steel wheels that have this functionality embedded. So we're very much looking forward SOPing this product, and similar to all the other innovations, it's very scalable. So we have the ability to produce those similar wheels in all of our steel locations. So we have some really exciting stuff going forward. When we talk new applications, it's really about looking how you can use the existing technologies and apply them into different segments. On the picture you see an example of a forklift truck, but there is more opportunities there. And I think over the past couple of years, we've been able to basically diversify our business and enter into more different niches, we call them, and new applications. And as you can see, some of those applications are really starting to take traction. We've been able to sell already more than 1.2 million wheels in light trailer applications, the picture in the middle, but also in the area of recreational vehicles. And when we look in today's global environment, where more and more budgets are being spent on defense, we've been in this industry for many years. We pick up these orders when they run through normal OEMs and trailer customers. But by putting more structure in place, we have the ability to grow also the business in this segment. Now, Peter talked about new applications, talked about our new plant in Turkey, forged aluminum wheels. In the commercial vehicle sector, our company has traditionally been very strong. We have a market-leading position in that segment. But we also, let's say, could not supply the complete portfolio because there is a certain portion in the market that is choosing for forged aluminum wheels because payload really matters. Think here about the liquid trailers, think here about specific truck applications or construction applications. So having now the opportunity to build a new plant that will be SOP by the end of the year and completing our assortment, that really helps us to build even stronger relationships with our commercial vehicle OEMs and to really leverage not only the steel business, but really our customer relationship. Now, it's very exciting. I think it's a technology, it's a new technology for us, but I think over the last couple of years, we've developed the technology in-house, And we're confident that we will be able to SOP that plant at the end of the year. And we'll be adding also what is called surface treatment during the course of 2026 to grow this plant going forward. To show you the progress and that it's really happening, just a small video of the plant in progress. So we're getting very close. Still, the last pieces of equipment are being installed, and soon we will really start to manufacture the first wheels off tool, off process. And that's really going to be the most exciting moment for this investment that is going on. So definitely looking forward to the launch of this plant. Last engine, it's about, continuously looking in the market what is coming. When we talk about new customers, we are already supplying more than 100 OEMs globally. As I referred to earlier on, it gives us a lot of input also on the requirements from those customers. But more important, that if we look 5 years back from today, the landscape did change. No players have come to the market. If we most probably look 5 years ahead of today, again, we will see a change in the landscape. So as an organization, we really need to stay on top of those new OEMs that are popping up. And today, many of them are coming from China. So with our footprint and office also in China, we have the ability to really serve those Chinese OEMs with a strong focus on those Chinese OEMs that really also have the intention to build a global footprint outside of China, because that's another opportunity that lies ahead of us. So we'll really start to work closely with them, and our target is to really capture share with those Chinese OEMs, using our wheel expertise and using our local knowledge, which they are lacking. That is also translated into the fact that when you start to compare your new business wins, so most of the time those are programs that will come to market 2 or 3 years from now, that we've been able to increase our new business wins when you compare first half year 25 to first half year 24 with 7%, which is a solid foundation also going forward. Now, when you talk about the growth engines, and when you talk about how you execute into the plans, I want to dedicate just very quickly a few slides on how we bring this to life in the plants. And one of the key topics here, it's really about the operational excellence. And how do we do that? That means in order to improve our processes, we really make sure that we have dedicated productivity plans per plant, that we closely follow up with our organization. That goes hand in hand with disciplined CapEx management, and it goes hand in hand with a structured approach, what we would call Lean Six Sigma, that really helps us to follow up on projects in a structured way. And as you can see, and I think we're very strong in this area, We have already more than 2,200 belts in the organization, with more than 130 being black belt. And that really helps us to keep on having a structured approach to reach those productivities. And this is supported what I would call high impact, low capex. Through the process of natural working teams, we scale and we have many small projects every year, close to 700 or 800, where people come up with ideas that we can share across the plants. And that really helps us in an additional way to achieve those productivities that we really need going forward. Similar to Renato, when you then talk about, okay, if you look towards the future, there is no way that we can neglect the digitalization of our processes. So that means it's not only that we need to embrace, let's say, this digital transformation, we need to work with the data. So data-driven manufacturing processes need to be embedded in our DNA, and we're doing so. And we're also being recognized for that in the market. And we're doing that not only in a couple of locations, like we were seeing already through the funding of the FINAP here in Brazil, we're doing that across the globe using our standard approach. And to demonstrate that, we'll have a last video for you showing this, how we execute that in our location in India. So what it shows that if, when you can grasp the data at your equipment and even of your processes, then you really have also a strong foundation towards the future. And when you look at the opportunities that are out there in AI, whether it will be in maintenance or preventive maintenance, or think about visual detection, you need to have these kind of data in order to make the next step. And that's what we're working for, that's what we're looking for towards the future. All of that then finally leads, I would say, it's almost a logical result, that if you have a growth plan, if you have the right product in place, if you can excel into your operations, by default you will have an engaged workforce, because in the end they're driving the organization and they're capable of generating a lot of new innovative ideas that we can then filter and implement into the organization. So we're very proud that we have the human capital in place and also have the ability to develop new skills, and with that attract and retain also new talent going forward. So as a summary, we've been able to adapt our organization to today's dynamics and being capable to being resilient in that market. We have been able to outpace the market and to grow our businesses. And I think with the innovations that we have ahead of us, that is the way forward. And yes, we continuously need to invest in the right talent to make sure that we can secure also that business going forward. And with that, I would like to hand over to Peter.
Dankjewel, Mark. That was a lot of components and even more wheels. Are you guys hanging in there? Still okay? Okay, a few more slides between me and coffee. I'll keep it short. 2 or 3 more topics. want to address before I wrap it up. Sustainability. We talk about that a lot, and rightfully so. I mean, our chairman of the board talks about that a lot, rightfully so. It's a very important topic, and it's not only a necessary topic, it's a nice topic as well, right? I mean, it's a good thing for the world. But I think we believe it can only work if we make it affordable. You know, if it's only coming through governments that are penalizing the industry by forcing them to pay penalties if they don't comply, etc. Short term, that will work. Long term, midterm, long term, we believe that we need to come up with solutions that are both more efficient and more sustainable. If we make that happen, then we really get some traction on this in the world, and for sure in Maxion, you know, we don't have the opportunity to invest a lot of capex in making this happen. We must make it happen, but we will do it in an affordable way. That's our strive when we talk about sustainability. People, you know, sometimes, now I come a little bit more to the end, a little bit more informal. My kids, now they're 10 and 13. A few years ago, they asked me, but Papa, what are you doing? When you're always gone and you're traveling around the world. What are you doing, right? And so I got away with telling them, you know, I'm going to make a wheel, a few more wheels, right? And that was good a few years ago. Today, they don't take that anymore. And they say, but what do you really do, right, when you go to all these places? And you think about it. And I think what I try to do and what my team tries to do is to make a good global team, right? And that's what Renata has been talking about, what Mark has been talking about. We have more than 40 nationalities. We have 33, soon 34 operations in 14 countries. These people need to be developed. These people need to be trained. These people need to be engaged, right? And we are very proud about our engagement scores that are benchmark in industry. And I think a lot of the time that the management spends during the day, when they travel around the world, is to try to make a better and better team globally in this company. Not only do we work with the people in the company, of course we work with a lot of external people as well, but also, you know, I don't want to miss the opportunity in this conference to talk about FOMA, to talk about the Iochpe Foundation. Now, this is pretty well known, I believe, in the Americas, first in South America, then we expanded to Mexico. Last year, some of you may know, some of you may remember, we expanded this program international, let's say, and we started in India. It was very successful, and we are launching the second program there in India as we speak. I can also tell you that we're already working on launching a next program outside of the Americas in EMEA, in the EMEA region. And so, you know, this is just an example of what we do. We don't brag about it too much. We don't talk about it so much as we talk about results and the market and all of that. But this is also very nice, just like sustainability. And it's a very necessary thing to do as well. I think Dan Iochpe's father, he once said, you know, if we're only good in making the business better, we're not good enough, right? We also need to make a little effort in taking our social responsibility. And so that's what we do as well, besides trying to deliver all the numbers that we talked about with you guys and that we will continue to talk about. Now, coming to the end, 2 more slides. You know, I hope you take away from this 1.5 hour that, you know, we believe, you know, even though the markets are dynamic, challenging, there's a lot going on, we believe we are in a more favorable position than some of our competitors, than some other suppliers, with a strong global footprint and our agile or flexible operations and our agile workforce, flexible workforce. You know, we will focus a little bit more on less, doing more with less, okay? Less capex projects, we talked about that, both in components as well as in wheels. And so smaller but quicker payback projects, more applications, more new products. We worked on that a lot the last 10 years, and we will work more on that the next coming years, and more AI and digital transformation. And last but not least, I repeat, you know, we will continue to drive, to grow, and to strengthen our balance sheet, you know, and deliver the shareholder value. So markets are dynamic, you know, and that's a fact in life. Sometimes it's a little bit more sunny, sometimes it's a little bit more rainy. But I can guarantee you that Maxion, you know, no matter how the weather is, you know, we will try to perform as we promised to you. Now, coming to the very last slide, talking about sunny days and rainy days. I think this is one of Brazil's heroes, right? Mr. Ayrton Senna. And so I thought about this, I saw this, and then I thought about something that the guy on the right there, and I don't want to compare it because the guy on the right is my son, 10 years old, and he's driving in the local karting championship, which is very different than driving Formula One World Championships. But he told me something. He said, we started late. He's 10 years old. You should start with 5 or 6 years old, right? Not 9 years old like he did last year. But he's getting there. He's becoming faster. And he said, Papa, I actually like the rain and not the dry. I said, how come? I don't like the rain, right? Normally, I like the sunny days. I come from Holland. There's not a lot of sunny days. I like the sun. He said, no, I like the rain because then I can do things different. And the guys that are already doing 4 or 5 years, I can catch up quicker because they also don't have so much experience in the rain. So I like the rain. And then I saw this phrase from Ayrton Senna. I think, yeah, that's true. And it's not only true in racing or in karting, it's true in business as well, right? I mean, there can be sunny days, and we like that, and everybody goes faster on a sunny track. But times can also be rainy, but when it rains, you can make a difference. And I can promise you that we will try in Maxion to continue to make a difference, whether it's sunny or also when it's rainy. So I hope you enjoyed this conference. I hope you enjoyed the many wheels and components that you saw, and I hope you will stick with us and have many questions that I hope we will also be able to answer. So with that, I think we go to questions and answers. Is that the next slide? That's it.
Well, we're now going to start our Q&A session. Please feel free to pose your question in Portuguese or English. So Peter to Renato, just raise your hand, state your name, and then you're going to have a microphone to pose your question, okay? Good morning, Peter, everyone, Rodrigo, everybody. I'm Flávio Bica, investor manager from Investors for the Future. Congratulations on your presentation. I like the tone. Welcome, Peter. I was happy to hear this energy from you, the long-term relationship with the stakeholders. We purchased Iochpe shares in 2018 after an event from Iochpe-Maxion, just like this one. When they showcased some of the products, I was really impressed with the quality at that time. And again, some years later, the products are still here, the quality is still the same, focus on innovation, and I think it's really nice. But the story has shown that Iochpe still had some things to do, and it was emphasized by Peter really well. Having good product is not enough if you do not execute everything with the product in an orderly fashion. I think it was the tone that you set for the presentation. You went right on target, and your diagnosis was really aligned with doing more with less. When I purchased the share, it costed less. Of course, there was some loss in the capital, and as a shareholder, we have this fiduciary obligation of looking for the return. But I was really happy to see that you were in this pursuit of this historical margin. You perceived all of the nuances, the market volatility, things that the company does not have any control over. I have one question. So within all of these challenges and everything that the company is exposed to, and in view of everything that the company has already delivered in regard to profitability, and remembering that the EBITDA margin is not profitability, it's about profitability. It is the cost of capital and return of capital to the shareholder. We need ROE that is in alignment with the cost, right? My question then is, many companies share and disclose this piece of information. How can you see the deadline so that we can reach that return of investment to the shareholders, the two-digit that is aligned with the cost of capital, in view of everything that the company can do despite market conditions. And what are you going to do to get there? What can we expect for the coming years? What is within the company's scope and what we can do so that we can get to these return to the shareholders, because it's been a harsh time for the.
Thank you, and thank you for the support, Renato. So I'm learning Portuguese, so I could understand most of what you say, and the rest, Renato was filling in for me. So yeah, that's a very good question. That's, I think, a very good challenge that many companies have, including ours. And so I think, when you listen to what we were trying to say, when we say we want to do more with less and we want to have new products, those are important things. It's not just a slide on a piece of paper, but if you say we want to do smaller projects, 10 projects of 5 million instead of one project of 50 million, and those projects need to have 2 years payback, 3 years payback, maximum 4 years payback, that's different than what we had to do in the last years, right? So that's one thing. We want to do more projects with quicker payback, less capex, quicker payback. Then if you talk about new products, first of all, it's necessary to grow a little bit faster than the market. If you want to share a gain in a very competitive market, it's very difficult if you don't decrease the price to the lowest price that is there in the market, which is not something that is very good for your profitability. And so our aim to come up with new products that give a value to customers that they don't have yet. And I'm not saying these new products, we will be the only one for the next 10 or 20 years, but at least for some time, we may be the first one, we may be the only one. Those products, of course, you want to have a little bit better return than on your standard product. And so doing better projects, doing quicker projects, and having new products that customers like and customers need, and they don't have yet, I think those are two ways of trying to improve the margin a little bit further and decrease the cost that we need to make those volumes happen. Now, at the same time, I also believe that right now, cost of capital, we are competitive, but it's kind of expensive, right? Our hope is also that over the next 1, 2, 3 years, those cost of capital will rather go down than go further up. So it's a combination of both. The cost of capital need to come down a little bit more, and our margins need to improve a little bit further, and that's our target. That was our target from 23 to 24. It was our target from 24 to 25, and we are committed to the target, and that will also be our target for next year.
Thank you, Peter. Just to finish, trying to understand, 1 year and a half from now, you said that margin EBITDA at the historical levels would be reachable, and you delivered. Congratulations. But again, I would like to listen in some way how is the time to reach the adequate return of shareholder. That's the main goal we as shareholders we would like to see.
Yeah, I don't have a date for you, but I think we're on the right track. I think we're on the rumo certo. Then of course we need to see how the market develops, right? And I think some markets have been developing a little bit more negative in the second half of this year than people were originally expecting. Think about North American truck, for example. But I also believe that everybody would agree that at some point in time, shortly, this market will come back, and we are ready for it with this investment that we talk about in Castanha. So, I can't give you an exact timing, but I think our target will definitely be on the short term to get to such a situation. Thank you.
Pessoal, bom dia. Gabriel Rezende aqui.
Good morning. Gabriel Rezende from BBA Itaú.
Aqui do nosso lado.
Two questions.
Se puderem comentar.
If you could please comment briefly, what is possible, of course. how everything that we heard should convert into CapEx in comparison to last year?
perto de 500 milhões esse ano.
Are we talking about 500 billions? I'd like to understand the conclusion of these projects in the coming months. The new projects that you were talking about for 26. How do you revert everything into CapEx? And in regard to the company leverage, you've commented on 1.5-fold next year, right?
Duas vezes.
Can we get to
A
2?
gente pode pensar no payout,
How can we think of the payout of the dividends of the company
forma alavancagem se
moving as leverage gets close to the numbers that you want for next year? Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, on the capex, I think the amount of capex that we're spending this year is the right amount. We can afford it, and it's the right thing to do for the company. It's just a different allocation that I'm talking about in 26, 27. So I'm not saying we're going to cut capex in half or reduce significantly the capex. We're going to spend it in a little bit different way instead. Maybe 10 smaller projects, okay? Now, at the same time, we also need to invest in our plants to reach the productivities that we need to be competitive, right? And so all these things will add up to a similar amount of capex. Maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. Similar amount of capex, but a different allocation of capex, okay? Your next question, I think when you have this amount of capex and you have this kind of volume trend that we're seeing in 25 and that we certainly want to continue in 26, I think, you know, we will be reaching an adequate amount of cash being generated to come to leverage that is significantly lower than what we had 2-3 years ago. We are really on the right track there. Now, to tell you exactly, same kind of answer, when will we reach 2 or when will we reach 1.5? You know, our aim is to reach something between 1.5, 2 times on the short term. I'm talking within the next 12 months, okay? That's our aim. Then what are we going to do when we reach this kind of level? What are we going to do strategically, right? Are we going to buy back shares? Are we going to provide more dividends? Those are all options that are on the table. I think we need to wait a little bit more. We came from a very high leverage after COVID. We made our way down to 2.38 in the last quarter. I think we're on track to do better in the next quarter, in the next quarters. And we will come back to you and say, you know, based on the results we're reaching now, this is our strategic plan going forward. Right now, the strategic plan for management is to do what we said in the presentation. We want to do these quicker payback projects, and we want to focus a lot on productivity in our plants and delivering new products.
Ótimo, obrigado.
Great, thank you. Hi, good morning. I'm Fernanda from XP. Thank you for the space. Thank you for this event. My question is in regard to the competitiveness and the scenario. You've spoken about the strategies with structural components. You mentioned about having the productive capacity to meet the demand of the market when it gets back on track. And in regard to wheels, you've mentioned innovation and the new segment of products. But I would like to know from you how you see competition behaving in regard to strategy. Do you see competition following the same direction and the same category of products, or you don't? Do you see something different coming from them? And how do you see competition behaving in regard to the demand, which is a little bit uncertain, especially for North America? How do you see them?
First of all, thank you for the question, but you know, we don't have all the insights about competition that I would like to have, right? So we have more insight about our own company, but you know, this is a very competitive world. I was talking about the racing. I think this is now less competitive when you talk about automotive industry. And so to say, no, we will beat competition, we will be better than competition everywhere all the time, that would be naive. It's not the case now. Our competition, you know, some competitors are really good, some competitors are struggling a little bit more. I think if you see one trend with competition is that it's more China. You know, the Chinese are expanding, not only on the OEM side, the Chinese are also expanding on the supplier side. And we see the same for wheels, not so much for components at this moment, which is more of a local business, but for wheels we see that around the world. Now, I don't think we have a major issue with that. I mean, we love the Chinese OEMs, especially when they start producing outside of China, because that's where we can supply them. In China, we are there, but we're very small, so we have the relationship, but we don't have the volume. So if the Chinese export vehicles, there's a lot of competitor wheels on those vehicles that, you know, we don't have that market. If they come to Europe or Turkey or Brazil or Africa, we are there, we can supply them. So that's a competitive advantage. We beat Chinese competition that way. But the Chinese suppliers are also coming, and you know, that's a fact of life. And I think if they have to cook with the same water, I always say internally, I think we can be competitive. Will they be good? Yes. But I think, you know, we've proven the last 100 years that we can be competitive. And so I don't believe they will suddenly have a very different component or a very different wheel. They will come up with innovations as well. I think, you know, if anything, we are having more than average new products, better than average new products. And so we will not be alone in this world, in this competitive world. But I think we're on the right track from a competitiveness point of view. Keep in mind one word, it's going to be more China. Already happened in China, 27 million vehicles, but the Chinese will move also outside of China.
Bom dia, time Iochpe.
Good morning, Iochpe team. Thank you, Peter, Renato, Mark. My question is in regard to China. Of course, this is one of the most strategic pillars for the company, although they are not much of a representativity with Iochpe. They have a relevant capex in Asia. India, along with them, between 19 and 21, at the beginning, we had a government program in place, which was something anti-evolution, with the purpose of reducing excessive capacity of offer and price war. I'd like to understand from you what is your midterm and long-term view in markets like China and India, and if this government program changes anything in your strategy with Iochpe. Thank you.
It's a very interesting question. Thank you very much. So I think China and India are very big, so that makes them a little bit the same, but they're also very different, right? And so if you look at China, it's a very, very important country, continent for the automotive industry. However, Iochpe is relatively small in China when it comes to, you know, operational presence. That being said, you know, the fact that we have an office in Shanghai, that we have engineers there, that we have commercial people there, that we have purchasing people there, that we have the connection to the Chinese OEMs, that's a very, very big advantage. Besides being there, making aluminum wheels and making truck wheels, I think the mere presence in China gives us a competitive advantage over some of our competitors around the world that are operating on a more local level. If you operate in Europe or you operate in Brazil, you don't have that connection to China. You will only learn it when they come to you. We already have that connection. And that for me is, besides being in China, but small in a small presence, that is a very big advantage that we have. And so our aim is not to become the biggest supplier in China. If we would have wanted that, we should have done it 50 years ago, 30 years ago, right? It's too late, that's done. And so the price war in China doesn't affect us really. It affects us maybe indirectly because customers are making less money in China, therefore they're making less money globally, therefore there's a little bit more pressure on suppliers. Everybody has to deal with that. But directly we're not so much affected by that phenomenon. Yes, and they put a lot. I mean, there is like 100 wheel suppliers in China. I think there's 90 of those that really don't play in the same ballpark as we do. And there's maybe 5 that are really, really good. They are our best competitors, right? And then I've been talking about that a couple of minutes ago. They go around the world and we will be competing with them. We have been competing with them. It's not new. It's already happening. When you go to India, that's a little bit different. We are in India since decades, and we are pretty big in India. And we want to be big in India. And we've been investing in India, and you saw that in my chart in the beginning. We will continue to invest in India. This is a growing market. It's a very big population. And the density of vehicle ownership is much lower than in China. And so the potential for growth in India, which is our strategy, right? If we go to India, we go to India for India, not to export a lot from India to wherever in the world. I think that's a big opportunity for our company. We know how to do business in India. We've been there for decades. Have been investing. We are investing, and I think we can compete very well in India. Our results are good, and we look forward to further growth in that market. Okay.
Obrigado, pessoal. Bom dia, Gabriel Tini.
Thank you. This is Gabriel Tini from Santander. 2 questions on my side. The first is linked to structural components. I'd like to understand better your strategy for the segment. If you could elaborate a little bit more on the capturing of new clients. And second, in regard to Europe and its market. You've mentioned in our last call that you were gaining market share and some of the players were in a harsh situation financially. But I would like to understand Inca and the capture of new clients and the new approach in general lines, if possible. Thank you. Thank you. Now, replying to in regard to structural components and market share and new clients, I think that I've mentioned 2 important examples on electrified vehicles. Although electrification in trucks is not moving forward on the same pace as light vehicles, recently we actually saw a decrease in this demand. We believe that in the long term or mid-term, especially in inferior classes, there is great opportunity. They have a competitive advantage over combustion engines, and we are going to have a nice market share, and we're going to remove some of it from the traditional OEMs.
And as for new clients, if you don't have a capacity, you're out of the market. And I believe that at the right time, about 3 years ago, we decided to focus on the core and where we wanted to grow and invest our money. I think we made a right decision. I cannot talk about our competitors. I don't have information about that. But traditional customers for whom we do not provide products yet, when we started putting to the market the investments we are making for the future, they're seeking us. There is great potential for the future as these capacities come up, and we have a possibility of increasing our share in North America and South America. The question about Europe was for me also about components, or do you want to hear about wheels?
I think you were referring to some remarks in the earnings call, or some questions in the earnings call. And so I think our customers like our stability as a company. Our customers like our products. And I think our customers like our performance. And, like I said about China, there is many suppliers there, and same in Europe. There's many suppliers, and some are doing good. I hope we're one of them. I believe we're one of them, and some are, having more trouble. Don't want to speculate too much about that, but of course, when customers need our support, then we are ready to provide that support. And you saw that happening a little bit end of last year, beginning of this year. Now, one thing that we need to keep in mind, if you win market share or you change your market share in our industry, this is not something that changes from one quarter to the other quarter, right? Because the lead time to develop a new product is between 6 months and 2 years. And so once you win something or once you lose something, it's not forever, but it's going to stay there for a little bit longer time. So we are confident that we're in a good position in Europe.
Thank you, Alberto from UBS sell side. I'd like to ask a question. Congratulations on your presentations and good luck to your son in car racing. I'd like to ask you about tariffs in the United States. We have about 1-3 of soft tariffs, 1 month of full tariffs. What is the pricing environment in North America, Mexico, the U.S.? How are the competitors reacting? Are they trying to produce more there? And how are you working with this dynamic with different costs?
Thank you very much, Valeo. That's a tough question to answer in 1 minute, right? We can spend the whole day on discussing tariffs and their impacts on various players. But when you look at Maxion, again, we are not a big exporter. We do export some products from India, from Turkey, from Mexico. Now, Mexico, we are USMCA compliant, and so should not have a big impact. And also, most of our contracts are ex-works, and so the direct impact of the exports we have is very limited in the company. I am always concerned about the indirect impact, and we didn't see much of that so far. But I'm anxious to see how industry volumes will develop. Hopefully, they stay strong, relatively strong as they are in pass car, not in truck. We hope that volume to go back up. But the indirect impact of tariffs is probably going to be more important for us to watch than the direct impact of tariffs. When you talk about how are our competitors trying to manage this and how are we trying to manage this with customers, I mean, of course, when you have a global footprint, you have more possibilities to move around product, and we are doing that. Our competitors are doing that to the extent that they can, that they have multiple operations, and also to the extent that it makes sense, because some of these tariffs seem to be there for the longer term. Take Europe and the US, 15%. Some of the tariffs that are out there right now, people don't know if they will stay, how long will it stay, and what will happen to the war between Ukraine and Russia when that ends? Will the Indian tariffs go back to 25%, now being 50%? So, I think people are trying to make decisions for the tariffs that seem to be staying there for a longer period of time. And people means either suppliers when they have possibilities to relocate product, or customers when they have the possibility to relocate product, maybe a different suppliers. You see those things happening. But when the tariffs are fluid, I think people are more on a wait and hold scenario, and they want to see how things play out over the next months or so. From a wheel point of view, from a components point of view, we don't see a lot of movement of people building new factories in the US in order to avoid tariffs having to be paid by either suppliers or customers. I can't tell you if that's not coming, because I can't look into their video conferences, but we don't see that happening at this moment. And so people are more juggling around, supplies around the world, customers are doing that, suppliers are doing that to the extent possible. Okay?
And with this, we'll be closing our Q&A session. I'd like to call Sandra from Iochpe-Maxion and Renato Salum. I want to thank them for the partnership of 25 years. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to speak very quickly. Iochpe-Maxion has turned in 2025. We have turned 55 years old, and it's been renewing very much as Maxion has done. And in Iochpe-Maxion site, which is brand new, you see many courses, many events, and we have tomorrow a web meeting to talk about sectorial and economic perspectives. But I'm here to congratulate Iochpe for the 25-year partnership we have, talk about how important this seal is, and it shows how clear the company is in giving all relevant information for the market, about the good governance. And this meeting shows that we have a large number of executives of the directors here. I hope to be here next year to give you the seal for 25 years. And I want to thank you for the partnership between Iochpe and Iochpe-Maxion and for all the information given to the shareholder market. Thank you for all the information, and I hope that next year that remains and you continue to have very good results. Once again, congratulations. I want to give you the seal and congratulate the CEOs and officers.